Rev up your engines!
Well, Toyota's going to shut down all its plants in Japan. It's shutting down all 14 of its factories in Japan because of supply issues. It has to do with supplies in their computer system. Of course, Toyota's not going any further to explain what's actually going on. That just shows that depending on other suppliers and other systems, it's not a good idea if you run a business. If you're good at something, do it yourself, get other people involved, then they screw up, and there goes your product. Or if that's a C8s, the drive shafts. Some of them were missing 1/3 of their ball bearings on the drive shaft. There's 6 ball bearings, some of them are missing 2. 1/3 of the bearings aren't there. Of course, it's going to break, right? Chevy was getting that stuff from a London-based company in England. Why on earth would anybody do something? Like somebody in the United States can't build something like that? They throw their stuff all over the place, and oh, gee, we got a problem now. The factory doesn't work, and we can't build our cars anymore. Maybe they should wise up and make the stuff themselves. That's supposedly what they're doing, building cars, right? Why don't they build their own stuff like they used to? Now, it might sound like a broken record, but Tesla keeps making their cars, some of them with no brake pads on the back. A guy in Ontario in Canada got a Model S, the really expensive one. He's driving around like, what's this noise? What's this noise? But they didn't put any brake pads on one side and the back, and so they're driving down the road and they start hearing crunching noise. Of course, it started eating everything up. All I have to say is, not only do they have bad quality control, but what kind of inspection do they have? Somebody had to drive that thing onto the truck carrier to get it there. It would have been making horrible noises stepping on the brakes. Infrastructure is rotten. Somebody should have heard the noise and said, boy, there's something wrong with this car, but he sure would have heard some noise. There's no brake pads, so it's metal on metal. The calipers are eating the rotors. Immediately it would have sounded wrong, and if they had workers that knew what they were doing that cared, they would have heard, hey, there's something wrong with this car. Don't deliver it to a guy. But no, it was delivered to the guy driving down the road, and the metal, and crunchy, crunch, and he had to take it in. They got to replace all that stuff on a brand new car that cost over $100,000. That just shows you no quality control. Anybody who buys one of these things, as far as I'm concerned, is a fool. You buy junk, they'll keep making junk. Don't buy it, they'll either go out of business or they'll have to make them better. And obviously, their quality control is absolute garbage. And the guy's driving them to deliver them. They should have heard something and said, gee, there's something wrong with this car. But they didn't even go that far. It's unbelievable. The YouTuber. Would you recommend buying a Toyota Corolla 2.0 versus the 1.8 liter? Well, actually not. And it might seem kind of odd, but Toyota makes the absolute best 1.8 liter engines in the world. I had a 81 Toyota Corolla SR5 hatchback. That was a 1.8 liter. Drove it almost 30 years. I still have my 94 Toyota Celica. That's got a 1.8. And we have a 2007 Toyota Matrix. It's still running like a top. And it's a 1.8 liter. So actually, in terms of longevity, I think the best engine Toyota ever made was a 1.8 liter straight inline 4-cylinder engines. They just seem to last the longest. Brett says, I just bought a 2017 4Runner. I think it's the best vehicle ever built. Do you think so? Well, yeah, they really are. They're all made in Japan. I've seen them with 500,000-600,000 miles or more on them, and they seem to keep running. They just go and go and go. Of course, they're gas hogs. Any SUV, you got a 6-cylinder engine, it's high up in the air. They're very aerodynamic. They weigh a lot, so they get pretty crappy gas mileage. But aside from that, they're probably perfect vehicles. Aside from the bad gas mileage. The way things are going with the price of gas going back up again, that's not such a great thing. Jerry De Leon says, what's up, Scotty? It's Juan from BAP Gian. Oh, man. He's one of the parts guys that I used for decades in Houston. BAP Gian. British Auto Parts Gian. They merged in and they did foreign car parts before most other people did. Hey, Juan, good luck. I hope you're doing okay in Houston. What is the best dealership to work at? Well, I guess only the one that you own. It's not good working for a dealership because they're making money off your back. If you're a mechanic, they pay you, but they want to make most of the money for themselves. And I'll show you how times have changed. In my grandfather's day, he worked at dealership. Before he worked for my father when they ran their own business, Texaco gas station in Lewiston, New York. He worked at a dealership. Back in the day, it was 50 cents an hour labor to get your car worked on. Now it's 150 bucks. He got paid as a mechanic 25 cents an hour, which is half. Today, if they charge $150, most of the places are paying them maybe $15 an hour. So the mechanics are getting ripped off. So really, working at a dealership is only good for one thing, and that is learn how to fix them right. They'll train you free. Then start your own business like I did. Get out after a few years of that. And then you can make good money. You can charge people less, and everyone is happy. Actually, working at it, not the greatest thing in the world, really. They're just taking advantage of the mechanics. You got to buy your own tools, and yet, they're taking the lion's share themselves of the profit. Tom Schmidt says, I got a 2015 Elantra. You have to press the gas to start it on cold starts. No engine codes. What could it be? You're not getting enough fuel. When you step on the gas, that tells the computer that you're stepping on the gas, so it pulses more electricity longer to the fuel injectors, so they spray more fuel into the engine. You might just try a good fuel injector cleaner in your gas tank. Drive it around a couple hundred miles. If it stops, great. It was just because the fuel injector was dirty and it needed a little bit extra gas. It can also, unfortunately, mean your fuel pump's starting to wear out. You'll turn it on, then you'll see there's no fuel and you got to replace the pump. More often, dirty fuel injectors, so have them cleaned. John Smith says, Scotty, what do you think of the Ford 7.3 diesel and the F-350s? Have a great day. They're decent diesel engines, but of course they have all that high-tech electronics in the modern ones, so, it's kind of crazy. I personally am not a diesel fan because way too much money to buy, the fuel costs more, and when they break, man, they cost a fortune to repair. Or, in my case, they're a royal pain in the butt to repair. Look at those big old Ford diesel V8s like that. Open the hood, you'll see maybe the two front cylinders. The rest are all hidden under the cab. They're almost impossible to work on without pulling the engine out, which is kind of a bad design. Mining Pro says, Scotty, help. My BMW stuck in gear and it won't shift when I'm driving. I think it's in fifth gear. Any fix? Will it damage anything? If you're talking about an automatic transmission, there's no way it's stuck in fifth gear because you said you're driving it that way. If it was stuck in fifth gear, when you put it in gear and stepped on the gas, it would stall out because the engine would not have enough power with that higher gear ratio to actually spin the tires. So you're not stuck in fifth gear, you're stuck in another gear. Those transmissions in BMWs are so complex. Pray you can find a guy like me, an honest mechanic who's got a BMW computer you can plug in. Let him do some analysis. Maybe you got lucky and a solenoid's stuck and it needs a solenoid. Those transmissions are so complex and they have so many computer controls on them. You got to have a guy who knows how to work on those things and start from there and then work your way on from there. Alex Coates says, I got 2011 Camaro V6, 125,000 miles. The only problem is it shakes when I brake. If you're talking about you braking, the steering wheel shakes, that means your front brake rotors are warped. And when the front rotors are warped, your steering wheel will shake. But on the other hand, you step on the brakes and it's the whole car shaking. That's often the back brake rotors. They affect the whole body of the car, making it shake back and forth. So check your brakes first. Could be that your brake rotors are warped, depending on what's shaking, the wheel or the whole car. Joseph Diaz says, my 2007 Toyota FJ Cruiser just had 38,878 miles of transmission starting to slip. Is there anything I could do? Wow, I've never seen a Toyota with that low mileage start to slip. Well, there is a thing you can do. First, make sure it's full of fluid. Now, you're going to have to pay a mechanic. Most of them don't have dipsticks. If it's got a dipstick, you can easily check it yourself. That's simple, right? Just drive it for 10 minutes, park on a level surface, leave it running in park, check the dipstick, and it should be to the full mark. If it's low, it'll slip. Now, if it's full and it's still slipping, try this as a last ditch. Take 1 quart of the fluid out, put 1 quart of the Lucas, L-U-C-A-S, anti-slip additive, put it in, give it 250 miles of driving. I've seen them stop to slip for a while. You can give that a try. Pray it's low on fluid, though, and you got a leak and need a seal or something. Ooga Boy says, what are your thoughts on the new Nissan Z in comparison to other sports cars in the market? Nissan always made pretty good sports cars, and those are screaming little cars. And for the price range that they're selling them in, they're probably the best sports car you can buy for that kind of money if you really want to zip around. They're classic sports cars. They got a big engine in the front, and they're rear-wheel drive. A lot of the cars are front-wheel drive. They drive differently. They don't drive like sports car. A classic sports car always has to have a big engine in the front, a standard transmission, and rear-wheel drive. That's the definition of classic ones. And those are classic. Those Z cars can really last a long time. Even if people don't take that great care of them, they're so well made. They're made better than just about all the other products that Nissan makes, aside from their giant Titan pickup trucks that are pretty good trucks. Jojo says, Scotty, are Honda V6 engines reliable? They are if you take care of them. You want to understand what kind of engine you have in your Honda. Honda Odyssey vans, right? They got V6 engines in them. They still got rubber timing belts, but they're interference engines. So if the rubber timing belt breaks, the pistons will hit the valves and destroy your engine. A lot of the newer Honda V6 engines have timing chains. That's a better design. You really don't want a Honda V6 engine with a timing belt unless you're going to be religious and change it every 80, 90,000 miles and change the water pump and the pulleys and the tensioner pulley. Everything has to be changed because if it ever breaks, goodbye engine. They're solid made, they're well made, but a lot of them have that problem of a rubber timing belt in modern times. Keith says, I want to upgrade a car. What's a good choice? I stumbled on your channel, and I'm from the Netherlands. I got a Hyundai hatchback from '05, and I want to upgrade it with the second child coming on the way. What would be a good choice? Now, you live in the Netherlands. I've never been to the Netherlands. I don't know what it's set up like there for cars. Toyotas are great cars. They're always a good choice. But some countries, you can't get parts for them, or they cost a lot, or people don't know how to fix them. You got to find out in your country what are popular cars that people buy, that there's mechanics who can fix them, and the parts aren't really expensive. I am not a Volkswagen fan, but I know a lot of people in Europe drive Volkswagens because, one, you don't get the crappy ones that we get in the United States. Most of yours are built in Germany, so they're better built. Parts are cheap, people know how to fix them, and there's nothing wrong if that's the situation you're in. Now, let's say you can get Toyotas or Hondas in the Netherlands and people know how to fix them and the parts aren't bad. Do that. That's a better choice because they make excellent vehicles. There's no arguing that. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.